Welcome to the Black Male Impact. Um, Today we have as guest Dr. Phillip Neely. Dr. Neely, welcome to the Black Male Impact.
Well, thank you, sir. It's a pleasure to be here.
Man, it's a pleasure. And for those who are here with us, I want to ask you, please, to share this conversation with your connections. I can guarantee you there will be something here for you and also for the people that you are connected with. My name is Dr. Richard A. Cross, and I'm the founder of the Black Male Impact. And the Black Male Impact is where positive changes are inspired. So the goal for this conversation is to share about the things that affects us and the things that we need to do to make a difference. Today's conversation is about socialization and breaking barriers and also the resilience in us as black men. So I hope you get something from this conversation as we go through the hour. But before I get into the conversation itself, I just want to share just a little bit about Dr. Neely, and so you can get a feel of who he is. He served over 22 years in law enforcement, and he's now currently 17 years plus as an educator. Normally, you don't see a lot of people who make the transition from law enforcement to education, or maybe there are more people out there than we know. But for someone to move from law enforcement to education, so it's not just the knowledge, the experience as well. He brings to the classroom. He's a leader. He's a author and he is a example of leadership. But before we get into the conversation today, I will ask Dr. Neely to share more about himself so you can get a feel of who he is before we get into this conversation. Dr. Neely, go ahead.
Yes, sir. I just want to say I'm a family man first, God fearing. Um, Law enforcement is in my heart, it's in my blood. I don't think it's a job, I think it's a calling. Education is where I started. I tried to run away from it, I got dragged back into it, even through law enforcement, being a trainer, working at the police academy, and then transitioning back out to say the best way I can help my people is to teach them. So let's
Correct.
go to the police academy. Let's go to the academic institutions and teach them. So I transitioned out of law enforcement over into academia, which has been just nothing but wonderful for me.
Correct.
And so, with that being said, I look at myself now as more so of a researcher, criminal justice researcher in public administration, criminal justice. And I just think that the gift I have is to continue to change lives and provide knowledge. So I'm thankful for platforms like yours that give me an opportunity to speak to people that I may not be able to reach. Your platform gives me that opportunity. So I thank you, I thank you, and I thank you.
Man, it's a pleasure. And being of service is what we should aspire to be, as individuals. The things that we learn, the experiences that we have, is also to help others, not just for ourselves. And once
Mhm.
we can show up each day with that mindset, we will definitely make a difference in the world. Again, I just want to say thank you for being here. And for the listeners who are here with us, remember to share, share. Please share this conversation with your network. And if you're here with us, please feel free to share your perspective. And also, if you have any questions, please ask those questions. We will try our best to answer as many questions as possible as we go throughout this conversation. So, Dr. Neely, I want to start off with this question. How has your upbringing shaped the way you view yourself and the world around you today?
Well, I think my upbringing itself, being raised poor, being raised with a family environment, lots of people always in the house, have really changed the way I look at life. Majority of my nieces, uncles was all convicts. I was raised by a grandmother. My mother died when I was 2, so my grandmama raised me out of the projects. And I say that to say how it shaped me. I don't feel I can lose anything because I came from nothing. So my whole goal now is to build and become something, which I have been striving all my life to do. One thing my grandmama told me, a man stands up, a man defends himself. You don't have to always defend yourself with your fist. Put your fist down and pick up your mind. That's what I learned from her. She had a 5th grade education, but she was the smartest person I know. That leadership that was provided to me gave me an opportunity to strive to be better. So people often ask, why did you go into law enforcement? After seeing what I have witnessed, all of my uncles, aunties that I was raised with, that I looked at as brothers and sisters because I was raised by their mother, which was my grandmother, going to
Right.
jails, going to prison. My daddy, when I was born, all the way up until I got 22 or 23, was always in and out of prison. Not
Wow.
jails, prison. So he would go do a 5-year stint, a 2-year stint, and the last one was a 15-year stint. And what shaped me was I got tired of hearing, you're going to be just like your daddy.
Wow.
No, I'm not going to be like my daddy. I'm not going to be like my dad. And I strive to be better than my father. Now, when he came home, I realized my daddy had some good qualities.
Wow.
He just did the things he did for the wrong reason. So I was still able to drop that negative mindset, still able to push away the criticism, go to that man and learn something. My grandmama said on her dying bed, don't turn your back on your daddy. His mistakes are his, not yours. Go
Wow.
to him. And so
You
I
know, I,
think that shaped me right. I'm sorry, but that
no,
did turn me a whole that turned my whole life around and gave me a positive outlook because I always had something to look forward to. I was already at the bottom. I was low as I can go. My only way out was to go upward.
and that's even what your grandmother said to you. That's a good way to look at life. Someone mistakes are their mistakes, not yours. And a lot of times people will want to say because of the environment you're from, that's who you're going to be. But
Hmm.
you have demonstrated and shown that doesn't have to be the case. You can be from an environment where you have seen violence, you have seen negative behaviors, but you can still choose to be who you want to be. And that's what life is about. And even that's what this conversation is about.
Hmm.
How our socialization, shaped us. For some, we take that environment and say, what, this is what I will not do. But, again, some people succumb to their environment. They allow what's happening around them to dictate what they do and maybe follow those same behaviors. But you
Hmm.
have made that conscious decision not to. And sometimes, and I find that this to be true, when people tell you that you're going to be like that person, you find some people take it and say, what, I'm going to prove you wrong. I'm not going to be like that person. Not because that's how I've been raised. That's even though I've been socialized that way, I don't have to be that way. So I'm glad to hear your story, your experience, and how you have overcome that experience, by not taking up your fist, but taking up your mind, as your grandmother remind you. Because once we start to think in a different way, we
Yeah,
will do things differently.
I like that word you use, how you have overcome.
Yeah.
And that was one of my books called The Overcomer.
Correct.
And I talked about some of these challenges. So thank you for bringing that up.
Oh yeah, man. We have to let people know through our experiences that we can be, or they can be, overcomers despite the challenges that they may see around them, because we
Mhm.
have to make that conscious decision to do the things that will help us to get out of where we are to where we can be. But that leads me to my next question. What societal expectations have you felt pressured by, and how have you overcome them?
You start thinking about being poor, on welfare, being treated differently because of the social economical environment in which you grew up. That was always a challenge when you got with your friends who had things and you didn't. So you had to find a way to overcome those challenges in a way that's positive. Political influences. So I overcame those challenges by getting involved. I made a long term decision way back yonder. I like that word, back yonder, old church slang that
That's right.
says, I'm going to be part of the solution, not part of the problem. Did I have issues coming up? Yeah, there was some issues. How do I get out of them through those societal trends? Was to focus on education. You know, the strongest tool a man has is his mind. I asked my dad one day, a conversation, I said, man, listen, you did 20 years in prison. How do you do that? He said, it's easy, son. You think like a cop, think like a criminal. You do time in your mind. So you got to get your mind strong. Read every day. And I tell children and I tell the young youth when I go out and speak with them, reading, read, read, read. Social media is not reading. Going on social media, reading what other posts, that's not reading. Get you a book, get
Correct.
you a magazine, get involved. So you got to strengthen that mind. The strongest tool we have is our mind. So you control these societal norms mentally. Because I believe you can beat anybody mentally,
Correct.
spiritual, and emotionally. One thing my grandmother did, she took us to church.
Yeah.
So what's in you going to come out of you. So that
That's right.
spiritual background has always been in me. I believe in it. I live by it. And that's the trend that have kept me above where my friends were when they went to prisons and jails also as I got older as a teenager, because I realized where I did not want to be. That was what changed my mind and led me down a path of righteousness, not wrongdoing.
Well, and even though you have mentioned with those experiences happening around you, so I want to ask you, did you consciously make that decision as a young child that you're not going to do the things that you see happening around you?
Oh, yes, sir. And I had to. I had a grandmother that was a strong disciplinarian. Wasn't a man in my life. I was
Yeah.
raised by a woman. So when people say a woman can't raise a man, I disagree. Because I think I'm a strong man. I was raised by a older woman, my grandmother. And she made choices and decisions and instilled those in me and my sister and my siblings that this is what we should be. Did all of them take? No. But in my mind, it took because I still had that other force that was always in my head. I don't want to be like my father. Right. So, yes, I made that decision a long time ago. And I made some decisions uh, that have changed my life and some that was good for my life and some that was bad for my life. Right. But overall, the good outweighed the bad.
Correct.
And I think just hearing her voice, even when she left here in 92, I still hear her voice when I think about doing wrong. That voice always pushed me back to doing the positive and the right thing. Because we can all, I mean, we all just one step away from going to jail. You know,
Correct.
the police can charge you with anything. We all uh, just sinners saved by grace. So I
Correct.
don't look down on nobody else for what they've done. I look up to what I've done and what I want others to do. So,
Correct.
like you, my goal is to get out and get young black men and give them the mentoring, the coaching, the guidance that another black man gave me,
Correct.
another man that led me, because I didn't get here by myself.
Correct.
You know, like I told you a while back, Dr. McCullum, in my academic journey, this man came out of nowhere, and I met him at a residency, and how he grabbed me and pulled me up academically and made sure that I got out of that program and got the degree that I have now. So it's about mentoring, coaching, guiding. It's about staying strong, sir.
Oh yeah, because there will be some societal expectations that, especially when it comes to us as black men, some
Hmm.
people may have high standards for us, but again, they will want to limit us, and feel, and then as a person, we may succumb to the limitations, and then again, we may be around other people who help us to rise above some of the challenges, that we have around us. And
Hmm.
as you said, even after, when you are about to make decisions, you start to hear the voice of your grandmother, and with her sound advice, you still choose to make decisions that's going to benefit you and maybe in long term, benefit others. So how do you handle criticism while staying true to who you are.
Well, like my grandmother told me years ago, she said, words don't hurt you, hands do. So I've never worried about what anybody said about me. That was the strong part about my mindset mentally. I never worried about what people said about me. I've always used my haters to become my motivators. I've always used criticism as a way of correcting my life. Sometimes that criticism may be needed. Now we look at it, I call it corrective criticism, right? You can criticize me. I just take what you say. If it means something that needs to be changed, change it. If it's something that don't, move on and just realize those are haters. You know, I've had situations in my life, even through my marriages or my marriage, where my wife may have said some things that I thought was critical. And then when I look back, I said, she got a point. So we have to evaluate those criticisms. I don't worry about what a person says about me. So if it's just extremely negative and people say, well, they criticize you, they defaming your character, I've been there. I've sued 2 police departments. I've won. But in the midst of suing those police departments, in the midst of that criticism, I was looked down on. I was talked about. I was called this, I was called that. But in the end, I prevailed
Correct.
because I realized once you say something, Dr. Cross, you can't take it back.
Correct.
So don't say words and put it out there that's negative and think I can come back and say, well, I'm sorry, I didn't mean that. No, you said it. And those
Correct.
words out there, once you write something, writings last forever.
Correct.
So one of the things I've learned is control. Listen first, speak later, right? Listen first. And when you hear the words, if there's something to address, address it. If it's not, move on. Everything doesn't need a response. Every question, every statement doesn't deserve a response. Yes, sir.
And that's a great way to look at it, and also it demonstrates you know emotional control.
Mm-hmm.
um, as men especially, they think we're supposed to respond to everything someone say about us. We have to have that self-control. And what you said earlier makes a lot of sense, and made it a valid point, that when someone criticizes you, it's up to us to evaluate it. And if we need to make changes, then we make those changes. And if they're just saying, or stating their opinion, they may
Mm-hmm.
be just haters. And we don't need to give the haters any attention. And because if we allow those who don't want the best for us to be our best, then we may stop doing what we're supposed to do, start focusing on what they're saying, and come off course and give into their hate or their opinion, which may not really matter to what we want and where we want to be. So we have to, as you mentioned, to evaluate those criticism, and if we need to make changes, we make those changes, because sometimes we're not seeing everything that we need to see within ourselves. But we have to know the difference if someone is genuinely caring about who we are and what we want to accomplish. But do you bring that same conversation to the young people, because they need to know how to deal with the criticism and feedback? And when you share that with them, what are their perspective?
Well, a lot of them have that aggressive A-type personality as a young man. They believe in the way I was brought up. They believe in that this works. This works. This is power.
Yeah,
And I have to teach them that this is not power. The greatest men didn't use their fists. They used their mind. Weak men use their fists. Took me a long time to learn that. I was suspended from Atlanta public schools many times for fighting, and I realized I wasted a lot of time with these, and I should have
correct.
been using this. Your mind is the strongest tool, and that's what I tell the young black men. You want to impress me? Quote something from a book. Give me a passage that you'll learn. Tell me
Yeah,
something positive you have done, right? Look at the political world and tell me how you're going to get involved to be a part of the solution and not the problem when it comes to race, religion, and politics. Those are 3 things we fighting right now. Everybody worried about Donald Trump. We're not worried about Donald Trump. Put your life in order and put your political perspectives in order, and then you can control your own destiny. Nobody controls your destiny. You want to vote, you can vote. and you got to plug it up. And you just got to be strong. You got to be willing to address these issues in a way that's positive. And the
Correct.
young black men out here right now, they believe in fighting. They believe that their power is in their hands. And I tell them again, Dr. Cross, their power is not in their hand, their power is in their mind. Use your brain.
Man, and that's an important reminder. Sorry, to be a part of the solution, despite, especially with the political climate that we're in. We have to focus on what we can do. We cannot allow most of the things that's happening to really distract us and to make us think we don't have the power. But I really like how you put it, that we have to focus on what we think and how we use our mind. And again, just be a part of the solution, because there are things out there that we can do. But if we are focusing on what other people are doing, we may not do the things that we can do to make the difference that needs to happen.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, that's important. That's an important reminder. Just even from, as you mentioned, about the dealing with criticism and evaluating the criticism, and knowing that someone's opinion doesn't mean what you're doing is wrong.
Mhm.
People will have something to say regardless. But I want to ask this question, as you were talking about the different experiences that you have. In what ways has socialization influenced how you approach adversity?
Well, I often say, and I tell my family this, my extended family, my immediate family, you got to inspect what you expect. If you expect greatness, you got to inspect it. Some people say that's micromanaging. I say it's not. I set goals for myself daily about what I'm gonna do each day. I set goals for myself weekly about how I'm gonna accomplish what I'm gonna accomplish this week, and monthly. Right? I set a financial plan. Most people don't do that anymore. I set plans and goals to make sure that I'm successful through this strategic management process. When we look at society itself, society continues to evolve, it continues to change. We have to be open and willing to change. That was a time in my life where certain things I didn't accept. Now I've learned to accept those things, but don't embrace those things. Certain things that I will accept now, still don't embrace, but I'll accept it because that's society saying that it's okay. But not being negative, not being a hater, and being able to move on. So when you inspect something and what you expect, there's greatness. So that's my life. Some people may say it's cocky, it's being complacent. I don't. I said I am confident about who Phillip Neely Jr. is. I'm very confident. I've been through the lows. I've been talked about. Words don't hurt me. Those that
Right.
old saying, "Sticking stones may break my bones, but words don't hurt me." Words don't bother me. People gonna talk. They talked about all great men.
That's
Martin
right.
Luther King Jr.,
That's right.
Malcolm X, E. Boy Du Bois. They talked about all good things. Benjamin E. Mays. So we got to stand strong in the face of adversity and continue to inspect what we expect and seek greatness.
And again, once we hold ourselves to a high expectation, once we hold ourselves to a high standard, you're going to be in environments where people will want you to limit yourself. And as you mentioned, being that you know who you are, and you're going to show up in that perspective of knowing who you are. People will want to say, who you think you is, you know, to have that confidence, because they want to limit you. They
Yeah.
want you to act like everyone else, and they want you to just follow the norm. As my mentor, one of my mentors always said, man, when you go to the environment, don't let the environment change you. If any changes that's going to happen, you change it, especially when you have things you want to accomplish, impact that you want to make. You don't want to move away from the person you are, what you expect from yourself. Because if you allow the environment to make you start thinking less of yourself in regards to what you want to accomplish or the standard you hold yourself, then you're being a disservice to yourself. And you never want to betray yourself by doing less than you are capable of, doing.
Yes, sir. I believe in that, and we just got to continue to grow and go. As we grow, we're gonna go on to higher places. We're gonna go on to better things. We're gonna do better things in society. If we start changing the mindsets of our youth right now, societal trends have them thinking it's okay to fight, it's okay to use violence, it's okay to carry a gun. And I bring it up because you was an ex-law enforcement officer also.
Right.
And people ask me all the time, man, I noticed you don't carry a gun. You're a cop. It's tough out here. I said, I don't need a gun in society. These kids know who to mess with and who's not to mess with.
That's
You
right.
know, I'm not gonna put myself in a situation where I need a gun right now. I have guns. Do I carry a gun when I go out? No, because that excites violence. If I got it, it brings that power. You raise one at me, I'm gonna raise it back. You raise your gun at me right now in societal trends, I'm gonna say, hey, sir, hey, no problem, move on. I'm gonna live to talk about it tomorrow instead of
Correct.
being shot or put in a situation that caused that criminality in our communities. So
Oh
that's
yeah.
what I tell the kids. When they ask me that, Dr. Krause, I tell the kids that I'm a 20-something year law enforcement officer. I don't carry a gun. So why you have one? Put it down.
That's right. And then, as you mentioned, it makes you feel um, a bit empowered, maybe
Mhm.
cause you to want to respond to things that you maybe should walk away from.
Exactly.
Because now you think that, you have the power to respond. But again, it takes a lot of self control not to, show up, you
So
know,
in that mentoring aspect, you got to tell them, don't talk about it, be about it. Like
correct, correct.
my grandmama used to say, don't tell me you love me, boy. Show me. If you love me, you do the things that I instilled in. I told you not to do. So don't talk
Correct.
about it, be about it. Yes, sir. Sorry to cut you off.
Yeah, but I also want to just acknowledge RV Cole. He's here. I just saw his feedback. Great conversation. So I just want to acknowledge RV Cole. But other people are here, but I'm not able to see, especially those on the other platforms. But we're going to have adversities, once we decide to do something in life. We're going to have people who will have their opinions. So, how do you think social environments impacts our mental health and self-worth as Black men?
Well, they put pressure on the world right now. You think about the social environment of talking about we're going to cut off SNAP benefits. The federal government is firing people. People are in a panic financially. The stock market is up and down. They got people want to turn to alcohol. They want to turn to drugs. They want to turn to stealing. They want to turn to robbing. They don't want to get jobs. That's mentally stressful. They want to break up in homeless tent encampments where people don't have anywhere else to go and say, well, we got shelters they can go to. Well, the shelters put them out at 7 o'clock in the morning. Where are they going to go for the rest of the day? They can't come back until it's time to go to bed, so they back on the street. Where are they going to eat? How are they going to get food? How are they going to get money? People say, well, they need to just get a job. Some people just not in the mindset to do that. Society has put us under a lot of pressure as Black men when it comes to stress. Think about this, Dr. Cross. There's a liquor store on every corner. I
Yeah,
don't care if you're in Georgia, Alabama, Mississippi, or Missouri. Every other corner you can find a liquor store, but where can you find a bank? How about a school? They closing down schools, tearing down schools, segregating schools. How do they segregate schools? By having these private schools now and saying, if you want to put your school in, they can go to this charter school process. They're segregating schools. They're taking away DEI out of the schools. So students are not getting the learning, the training, not being able to have the hot lunches that they need. These things have changed the way we are living now and the way we're going to live going forward. It's going to take people like you, Dr. Cross, to continue this platform, to let the Black man know, the kids know, there is a future. There is brightness ahead of this rain and sunshine. Don't let the political rhetoric bring you down, right? Everything's going to be okay. They can take away everything they want. But remember, most of us came from nothing. So if I
correct,
came from nothing, I can survive on nothing. It ain't
correct,
like you came with a silver spoon in your mouth and now everybody took something away and you all of a sudden crying because you ain't never lived this way, right? We know how to make it. We
correct.
know how to survive. But in the midst of our mental health, it's going to take people like you and your platform to continue to educate the Black man, to continue to teach, lead, and guide, and help grow the mindset of those individuals out there that are struggling.
So as you're talking, now we have to be more intentional in creating those social environment to provide a more positive um, environment for those around us. Because if our social environment, because regardless of where we are, as you mentioned, there are things that
Mhm.
are being removed from our environments that would be beneficial. And as you mentioned, there may be more alcohol shops, you know, stores that are in our community, are things that are there that are not beneficial to us. And if we want to create change or positive impact, we have to be intentional on, creating those spaces that
Mhm.
will empower the young people especially, and even us as adult, because we too need that support so we can navigate what's happening and be more informed on how to go about dealing with the changes that's happening. Because if things are being removed, as you mentioned, it's going to affect us mentally. When you don't know what to do or where to go, you maybe start worrying about, how am I going to deal with this situation? And if they don't have ways to deal with it, they may succumb to those challenges and lose hope and lose faith in in who they are and what they are capable of doing. As you mentioned, we have to create the space so we can help those who may start to have doubts and how to believe that more is possible, because it can be a bit challenging, especially when you don't have a means of, but you mentioned that some of us, we grew up in that situation. We know what it's like not to have certain things. And sometimes it's just to get back to that mindset of, learning how to survive. But we have to create ways, for those individuals who want more and how they can thrive, because we are socialized on surviving.
Mhm.
And sometimes, that survival mindset, yes, can get you through the challenges, but we have to, create platforms and environments that will help those who want more and who have the desire, to be able to find ways to navigate, their way forward. Which leads me to, my next question. What experiences, and you may have mentioned this earlier, but what experiences in your childhood do you feel mold your confidence and resilience today? I know you talk about your grandmother, but I know you talk about high school and how you got involved in different activities, fighting activities and stuff like that. But what really give you the confidence and resilience, and help you to be the person that you are today?
I had a good friend that ended up being a mentor. I didn't realize that a peer could be a mentor. And that peer ended up being a mentor to me. I had gone to juvenile twice
Wow.
uh, for fighting and also riding my motorcycle without a driver's license, running from the police, which my grandmama had told me not to do. I could hear her voice, but I was so scared to go home because I knew she was going to beat me and I
Yeah.
didn't want to be beat. So I ran. But at the second time, she came and got me, and my peer came to me. He says, "We're going to change your life." He said, "I seen something in you the other day that I didn't see before." He was a track athlete, and he had been running track in the AAU system since he was like 7 years old. And I said, "Man, I ain't got time for athletics. I'm in the street." But that peer influenced me to come with him, and I went one day to track practice, and I found out I had a gift I never knew I had. I could run. The second part of that gift, I was just so shocked. I not only could I run, I was winning
Wow.
big races. So getting with him, my good friend Winfrey Jordan, he was a mentor on me on two ends. Growing up, he got me in the track and field. Right as I got into law enforcement, he kept me out of the line of life that he had gone into to send him to prison for 15 years. But in the midst of that, being a cop and him being in the side that he was, we stayed connected, right? He never tried to influence me. He never got into my business or crossed over that line knowing I was a cop. And we always stayed connected by our friendship of childhood youth, track and field. And if it had not been for him leading me into track and field, I don't know where I would be today. Track and field got me back on track. It got me through high school, you know, winning big meets, second and third in the state meet, things of that nature. And it got me into college because I wasn't going to college. You know, it got me into college and it got me through college. I went to college running on a track scholarship. And then that mindset of being connected as a child through that peer mentor. You know, he went off to prison 15 years. He back now and he's very productive. Some people go to prison and don't learn anything. They're not rehabilitated. Some do. He came back rehabilitated. He came back. He got a family. He got married. He's very successful. And what is he doing now, Dr. Cross? He's a peer mentor. And he
Correct.
engaged students by basketball and speaking. Basketball and speaking. He has a platform like yours, and he's very successful with it. He's changed his life. He talk about what he went through so they don't have to go through it.
Correct.
I talk about what I've gone through and the way I was brought up so others don't have to follow my path. So, you know, like I said, my path wasn't always clean. It was a little shaky coming up. But after I hit that last road and went to juvenile that second time, and that judge said, if you come back here again, you're going to do 2 years. I sold a motorcycle, got involved with sports, and my whole life changed from that point forward, right? That was the only time I ever let my grandmother down. But then again, I couldn't really let her down. She bought the motorcycle knowing I wasn't old enough to ride it. So I said, we both at fault, mama. She said, you think you smart. You don't talk to me like that. I said, but we are. You knew I wasn't old enough to ride it, but you bought it.
That's
So
right.
you gave me something that you knew I should have. So just like you and I, let's give these kids something they don't have. The ability to wear a suit and pull up a tie.
That's right.
You know, when I see us giving away suits to these young kids, take off these street clothes and present yourself well. The ability to go get a trade, whether it's welding or even the minor thing, barbering, learn to cut hair, make your own money and make it the legal way. The outlet they need, as you talked about, giving them a way to change their life. Winfrey Jordan changed my life. So now when I go back and speak to these kids, yes, I tell my story, but my story is not important. I tell the kids that what's important is that I give you the way to go forward. I give you tools not only just to keep yourself out of this harm. If you're already there, I'm not going to criticize you. I'm going to tell you
Correct.
how to get out, and when you get out, how to become better.
And as we're talking about the confidence and resilience, once we start winning, once we start doing something productive, that in itself, makes us confident. And once we become confident in doing something that we love, it automatically it's going to help develop that resilience because
Yes,
I
sir.
want to continue winning. I want to continue to be the best. As an athlete myself, when you're winning, you want to keep showing up to do what it takes to win. And it's to find that thing that you love doing and just do it regardless of what's happening around you because it doesn't matter what my peers are doing or what your peers are doing. What matters is that I'm going to do or you're supposed to be doing what is going to help you to continue to be better at what you're doing. And as you mentioned, once we give these young people the tools, they'll and those who will receive it, will start to do the things that they're supposed to do. And once they can see themselves, in a different light, especially with the suits. I've seen young men that I've given suit to just show up the next day and say, man, like they can take on the world. Now they want to do more of it, because they feel confident in who they are. Once they start to feel confident, they want to do more of that which makes them feel that way. And when we remind the young people like you can change your life, but it starts by you doing the things that you have been told that will help you. And the more you do it, the more you will want to do it because again it's about that internal feeling, and it's just to help them to start to see themselves beyond where they are. And I think that is important.
That's true. I think socialization and resilience plays a key role here.
Oh
I
yeah.
often tell the students when I speak with them, and I'm often out there in the streets, that I could have been anything I wanted to be. I could have been in the streets running the gangs. I could have been toting guns. But you got to have that strong background and the mindset that you want to change, right? My grandmother was older. When I got about 15, she's in her late 70s. She was old, overweight, all kind of health problems. She couldn't control me. She
Correct.
couldn't. But I was afraid of her the way I was raised, that I would never raise my hand at her. I would never curse at her. And I always said, yes, ma'am.
Correct.
I was afraid of. That's where I was raised. And as a police officer, going to calls for service, when I show up in a 13-year-old and the mother said, well, he told me he ain't going to school and he raised his hand at me. I said, are you serious? I didn't think stuff like that happened because my grandmama had us so afraid. I don't know now as I got older, was I afraid or was she just instilled discipline in us
Well,
that
maybe
called
it's
respect?
respect though. Maybe it's
Respect.
respect.
Okay.
Maybe it's not so much fear. We may think it's fear, but maybe some fear was there, but I think it is more so respect. And I
Okay.
think, having respect for the people around us will also help us to do things that we believe that they will like us to do.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I strongly believe, and I think the young people today have to develop that respect
Uh,
for those around them, because when you respect someone, you tend to listen more to what they have to say, especially when they're guiding you in the right way. Because you can kind of tell when someone really wants to guide you in the right way.
mm,
And if you have the respect for them, just listening to you and talking about your grandmother and why you do the things that you have done, and even when she's not there, you hear those things. It's the respect you have, for her. I'm not going to do this because how my grandmother is going to think about me doing something like this in this nature. She's not going to like it. So I will want to do things that are more in alignment with the expectation of the people that you respect. I believe that's just my perspective.
mm. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Uh, and that's something that we got to get back to getting these young men to understanding. I found a lot of mentors that I've been out with, they give up. They say, these kids not listening.
Yeah,
And I like to tell them, it's just like instructing a classroom. You're not going to reach every kid in the classroom. You're not going to reach every kid on the street. But if I can get one
correct,
and change that mindset, I'm okay. And I'll get the other ones later. But right now, I need to grab that one that needs to hear what's been said. Something you said earlier that I want to circle back to was the fact I thought about when I was a cop, a lot of the kids that I was trying to mentor and didn't want to hear what I had to say because they felt like, well, you just the police. You've always done right. You the police.
yeah,
And so now, as an educator going out, I don't even mention about law enforcement. We just talk mentoring, and they're more willing to listen. And I tell them all the time, that's why God gave you two ears and one mouth for a for a reason, so you can
correct,
listen more and talk less. I'm gonna tell you something that's gonna help. That's gonna change your life. I ain't always been where I am.
correct,
That's why criticism's been good to me. I ain't always been where I am. I ain't always been the good guy.
correct.
And they shock them, Dr. Cross, when I tell them I went to juvenile twice. Now I
Oh
ain't
yeah,
doing.
oh yeah,
I never done any time now. I just got taken down, handcuffed, and sitting up 4 or 5 hours till my mama came and got me. But at the second time, when the judge made that statement to me, that if you come back here again, son, this is where you going. That mentorship or that peer mentoring from my friend, when he reached out to me and latched on, I said, "Whoa, here go my outlet." Even
correct,
now, my mama dead and gone, but I still make decisions based on if she was here because I know she's still watching.
correct. Oh yeah, when you have the respect for others, people, I don't want to let these people down. I don't want to have them thinking negatively
Mm-hmm.
about me. And I think, having that mindset, it helps a lot when it comes to the things that we do in life, because we're not only thinking about ourselves, we're thinking about the people that we care about and who we believe care about us. And if we can approach life like that, some of the things that we would do, we're not going to do it because we're not only thinking about ourselves, but we are thinking about other people. But to go back to, especially with the young people,
Mhm.
as you're talking about that they're not listening or want to do what you're saying, I believe sometimes they're going to be one student, one young person there that will want to do the right thing. And what I often do, I incentivize that one person,
Mhm.
so when others see that you're providing some form of incentive to this
Mhm.
one person who show up and do what they're supposed to do, then the others want to be incentivized. So what they're going to do, they're going to modify their behaviors so they can also be incentivized. And that's one way to reach the young people who tend not to want to do what you're telling them to do, even though what you're telling them would be beneficial to them. So
Right.
we have to pay attention to the one that is doing what they're supposed to do, provide some incentive. And then, others will want to modify their behaviors because even though as leaders, we are doing what we're supposed to do, we're leading by example. They are looking at us as adults and saying, man, you never been down where I am. Just as you mentioned, once you start telling them about, your mishaps when, you were younger, going to juvenile, then their perspective changed. They said, how you went there? Because, they don't think that, as adults, we make mistakes.
Mhm.
They think it was all smooth road to where we are today. But we know we're getting closer to the time, so I have quite a few more questions that I
Okay.
want to ask. So, but let me ask this question though. Being that we're talking about young people and the things that they experience and how sometimes they receive our perspective on what they need to do. My question to you: how has your environment shaped your views on leadership and responsibility?
Well, you got to be held accountable. You got to be open. And my environment has always been three things: family, faith, and love. I understand that for every action, there's a reaction. So I can't make a bad decision because that bad decision don't only affect Phillip Neely Jr., it affects my family.
Correct.
I think about now, if I lose my job, my family don't eat. I know my wife works, but it's my job as the provider to make sure that I'm working. I know that if I get in trouble and go to jail, it affects my family. I'm going to lose something else. Then you start thinking about faith. I always fall back on my faith through societal trends about it's going to always be a struggle. And I love that song, and that faithful song always come in my mind. Change gonna come. Change is gonna come. But you got to remain positive through love and faith that you can do the right thing, right? And I think that's where we get lost a lot of times. And we start thinking about being a servant leader, looking at resilience. How are we going to get there? How are we going to be resilient in our way to show love? How leadership's going to lead and guide not only us, but our family. I can't tell a young man about drinking and using drugs, and every time he see me, I'm drunk, or
Yeah.
every time he see me, I'm high. I can't tell a young man about putting down a gun. Every time I go around him, I got a gun stuck in my back. Even as a cop, they say, well, I'm a police officer, that's why I have it. No, when I come to you, I'm coming to you as a mentor, not as a policeman, not as an educator. I'm coming to you as a young black man that's going to share experiences that's going to mold your life. That's leadership. Leadership is having those people follow you when nobody else will, based on the circumstances they're provided through. And I'm going to show you a positive way to get there.
So, can you share? And I know to be the example, be the mentor, and
Mhm.
be display what you want to see in the young people. But can you share a moment where adversity tests your resolve, but ultimately strengthen you?
Well, I think it came when back in 2003 when I was terminated from the police department for unjust causes. I knew I was right. Police chief called me the N word inside of an investigation because he wanted me to do something I wouldn't do. One of my colleagues had gotten in trouble, which I disagreed with. And the act that they accused him of, he did it, but it wasn't to the extent that that adjacent jurisdiction said it was. And so when during the investigation, I was in there and the police chief got mad. He said, "Are you kidding me? All I done for you? This is where you gonna treat me?" And he looked at me and he was angry. And what was in him came out of him. He said, "The N-word." And I like, "Whoa, you heard me." And he said it again.
Wow.
The adversity was he went to the media after they terminated. I went to the media, but after they terminated me, they told the media, the reporters, and everybody else, I was a bad cop. I've never done this, and I've done this, that I was lying. He never said it. That wasn't true, Dr. Cross. I was officer of the year. I was
Wow.
supervisor of the year. I was manager of the year. I was a community activist in uniform. People loved me in that community. They rallied. They rallied. And when they came back, he didn't know I had recorded the conversation. I let him go on and continue to call me a lie. The community rallied. I got a newspaper over there now. I can give you the paper. I keep that newspaper where we marched through the streets of that city with Dr. Abbott. I mean, Dr. I forgot his name. I almost thought his name. It's two of them. We marched through the city with two or three strong activists, that's community activists right now. Joseph Lowry, that's his name. Joseph Lowry and the other one. Uh, we marched through the streets, thousands of people. And that changed me because those were black people, those were white people, those were children marching in the name of Phillip Neely Jr. for justice.
Wow.
And how did it change? Yes, I turned the audio over afterwards. They played it, and everybody was like, wow. I ended up getting my job back. I ended up getting my rank back, and I went back to work. But that changed me because at that point, I had to learn that everything that's good for you is not good for you. Some
Yeah.
things may be good to you, but not good for you, right? I trusted this chief. I believed in the job, and I had to realize that was just a job. They'll fire me tomorrow, and they was going to move on like they had planned to do if I had not had that recorded.
Yeah.
Even with the recording, I still took a 30-day suspension because we had a policy about not recording inside the organization. But like I told the judge, if I hadn't recorded, he'd already called me a lie. Y'all gonna believe me or the police chief? He said I
Correct.
was a bad cop. Never had a bad performance review. Never. All my performance reviews were exceptional. And I gave that up to the media. And so this changed me by showing me that no matter how well you do good, there still can be some bad in people. So
Correct.
I had to realize don't put my trust in people, put my trust in the Lord and continue to do what I do for my organization because I believed in the people. Those
Correct.
people, if I hadn't done what I'd done in my community, they wouldn't have rallied behind me.
Correct. Correct. Correct.
They
And
rallied and we marched through the streets. If there's anybody on here listening back in that time, they know Phillip Neely. They remember the march. They was there. Children,
wow.
young men and women, I'm talking about teenagers, older adults, black, white, Hispanic, marching in my name. That changed me forever. That showed me humility. I stood there and I cried because I
Wow.
couldn't believe so many people will come out to support me. They didn't know me. They knew I was a cop in the community, but they told their people to come. They told their children to come, and they told others to come, and they came.
But
I
but
almost got teary eyed then. Thank you, Jesus.
but you know what? But it happens because as you mentioned, you had the award for Police of the Year. All those different things that you were doing. So you had displayed, the work. You have shown the community who you are. Despite the resistance or opposition that you may have faced, and sometimes, you know we need some of those things to happen to actually know what's in the people around us. Because we may want to take some people where we want to go, but those oppositions really exposed what they have within, but also give you perspective or give us perspective. Those adversities help us to be even better, but even more so, what we do, regardless of where we are, matters.
Mhm.
And we should always put our best foot forward, because when the moment comes, even though they may say you don't, you have what you have accomplished to prove that that's not what's happening. I have done my due diligence and stuff like that.
Yes,
So,
sir.
but let me go on because I want to ask a few more questions before we end up ending this conversation today. So, with adversity and with the challenges that you have experienced, how do you cultivate a mindset that turns criticism into constructive growth?
I have to be open using humility. A lot of men, they think that showing some type of humility is weakness. And I don't think so. I think I'm open. Sometimes I need to be criticized. I think one of the greatest joys of my life was joining a fraternity. And in joining that fraternity, there are certain things and certain actions that we go through to make us better as men. And it cultivates you not only as a man, but as good leadership. And so I just feel like we have to be open. We have to address issues as they come. And
Okay.
don't take this personal. A lot of people take things personal. I tell people all the time at work, this ain't personal, this is business. If you don't want to be my friend, that's okay. I think we take things personal. We get in our feelings. One thing about being married so long, my wife told me, you got to get out of your feelings. You always in your feelings. Get out of your feelings. Let's have a honest conversation about what you did. If maybe it was something in law enforcement or something we did while we was out in the community. Because one of the things that she never liked was the fact that I'm so apprehensive about everything and people because I was a cop so long. I watch everybody, I look around. And so I had to realize that when you're addressing these issues using good conflict management, good resolution skills, that we address issues that arise, we got to get out of our feelings. We have to be open, and that's what I do. I remain out of my feelings when I'm addressing situations. I remain open to other people's opinions and their feelings, and I realize that words matter. So I watch what I say. I make sure I craft a good response before, letting it come out of my mouth to someone else's ears.
Well, and that awareness is, really important. As you mentioned earlier, that what you say, you can't take it back because you already say it. So you have to be mindful of what you're saying. But the next thing that you mentioned that I believe is important, especially when it comes to criticism, is that humility. Having that humility on, just to know that, you know, they may say things that I may not like, but I'm not going to take it personal. And that's a great reminder, not to take things personal, because again, it may be because of what they're experiencing that day, may cause them to say what they say to me in the way that they say, and just be open. And as you mentioned, that sometimes just having those conversation about what's happening can help to navigate one's journey, or to get through what someone is saying, or the criticism that they may have made and stuff like that. So I think just the humility, as you mentioned, is important when it comes to dealing with the criticism, and not to take
Right.
things personal. I think that is a very important reminder as we take on this journey that we call life, because there will be things people are going to say that we
Mm-hmm.
may not be in agreement with, but we have to realize that that's their opinion. And as you mentioned earlier in the conversation, sometimes we have to just evaluate those criticisms, so we don't go off, too far off, or act out of character because of what someone says. So, how has your socialization influenced your ability to build meaningful relationship with all those different, especially within the police force, within law enforcement, within education? How has your socialization influenced your ability to build meaningful relationships?
Or it has influenced it greatly. I think being a people person, I like people. I listen to what people have to say. I get into a lot of political fights. My thought process around race, religion, and politics has really shocked the world. I could talk to a Republican all day long and it don't affect me. Some people want to get into that political argument. Mine is shaped by the leadership that was instilled in me very young, at a very young age, that has not changed. And what has changed in me is the fact that I revolve, that realizing everything changed and I must change too. So I've changed my mindset. I changed the way I think. I've been more open minded to what others have to say. Well, before I was closed minded. I use
Correct.
good critical thinking skills as I address issues, conflict resolution, management. It always come to mind because I always said that young folks wouldn't have the problems that they have now if they had good socialization skills. Someone taught them about conflict management, conflict resolution, and told them this: for every action, there's a reaction. For every cause, there's an effect. And sometimes that cause and effect can cause you to lose your life or have your life taken from you in prison. So those are the things that have shaped me and got me going. Good leadership.
Yeah, we have to, as you mentioned, cause and effect. What we do will affect how we live, and sometimes how other people perceive us. But again, despite how people may perceive, if especially when you're doing the right thing, if someone perceive you the wrong way or say things because of what you do, you have to learn not to take things personally. But as you talk about critical thinking, that is important. Especially we are all socialized a certain way. We all grew up in an environment where people we have seen things and where we have been taught a way to think, and that's where critical thinking. But as you mentioned, over time, we have to learn to make those adjustments in our
Yeah.
own thinking so we can deal with what's happening around us and the people that's happening around us, because people are going to have various opinions, and we have to think critically about what's happening, what someone may say, and so we as individuals can grow and evolve, and not to stay stuck in our own way because of how we have been socialized. So my next question to you, and I may have one more question after this. How do you see your impact shaping the next generation of Black men?
Very positively, very positively. And I say that because I want Black men to see greatness in other Black men, not just Black men with money, power, and influence. I don't have either. So we always look at Black men with money, power, and influence, and we think that shaped the future. What shapes the future is having these individuals realizing that the wealth is in you. I'm the richest man on the planet, as far as I'm concerned. Money don't make me, I make the money. But we got to get out there and let these young youth understand that fact, that we have to work, first of all. We have to think positively, second of all. And third, we got to get involved. We're afraid to get involved, right? When I say get involved, I ain't talking about fighting. I'm talking about getting involved with the process. If you want to make change, one of my other good friends of mine, he came from nothing. He wanted to make change. We started talking. You know what he did, Dr. Cross? He ran for office. He's
Yeah,
on the Atlanta City Council now. Now you can make change. You can
correct.
help rewrite policy. You can help shape policy. You can write policy to guide our youth to manage the homeless or to deal with the social economic disparities that we face on a daily basis.
Oh, you got to get involved. And as you talk about, you got to work. And they always said the only place success comes before work is in the dictionary. But in life, you have to work first before you achieve success. So I know we are at the top of the hour, but before we go, please could you? I know you have a new book coming out, and also if you could, if you don't mind, share where the listeners can reach you, contact you, and support the work that you're doing.
Oh, yes, sir. Yeah, I got a new book coming out. It's going to deal with political policing. Woo, listen to that term, political policing.
Oh yeah.
Right now, policing is being very political when it comes to the FBI, DEA, Secret Service, and most often heard of Homeland Security slash ICE. You can reach me at phillip.neely@hotmail.com. You can reach me on Facebook. Don't know the link, but you can just put in Phillip Neely to pop up on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter. I look forward to hearing from you. I hope you all got something from this. I've always enjoyed the platform with Dr. Cross. I think we need more of this. It's engaging. I think this message needs to go out to our youth so we can learn from each other and continue to go and grow. Or
That's
we can
right.
change it up, grow and go. Thank you,
That's
Dr.
right,
Cross.
man. It's a pleasure, and that topic really sounds really interesting. Political policing, because there are things happening within the police force that the normal person will not understand. And again,
Oh, yeah.
from a political perspective, we all are influenced by what we are exposed to, and sometimes those experience may not be what I would say in alignment with
Mhm.
everyone's perspective, if I should say it like that.
Yes, sir.
And once you are part of law enforcement, your experience will be a little bit different. And because one, we still have to be unbiased, but again, we are all socialized in a certain way, and there will be some form of bias. We just have to be aware of our biases, so we can treat the people that we are entrusted to serve the best way possible.
You can. Yes, sir.
But yeah, so I know we're here at the end, and for those who are here with us, I want to say thank you. But before we go, what one message would you share with the black men here and also the young black men?
I'm gonna tell you the one message I'll give him was a poem by Edgar A. Guess. And it's see it through. One stanza. When you're up against a trouble, meet it squarely face to face. Lift your chin, set your shoulders, plant your feet, and take a brace. If it vain to try to dodge it, do the best that you can do. But running from it won't save you. You may fail, you may conquer, but see it through. Stand strong as a man and see it through. Thank you, Dr. Cross.
Man, that is powerful. We have to see it through. Life will happen, life will come to us, but it's important that we embrace it and see it through. Dr. Neely, as always, it's great, having the conversation with you, and it's just a pleasure to have you again on the Black Male Impact. And for those who are here with us, again, I want to say thank you for joining us here on the Black Male Impact. The Black Male Impact is where positive changes are inspired. Thanks again, and it's on us to bring guests that we believe we all can benefit from as we continue this journey to make a positive impact. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, sir.